What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're coming at you with yet another NFL mock draft. And good news, this version will include trades. So, an updated 2024 NFL mock draft with the real deal coming in only a couple of weeks. We've got a little bit of a better feel of what might or might not happen. So, a great time to run it back. And with that being said, sit back, relax, enjoy. If you do, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section, do you agree, disagree with these picks? What do you think will happen? Who your favorite team will draft and why? But with that being said, let's get into this thing. Let's kick it off. The 101, it is Caleb Williams. It has been Caleb Williams. The Chicago Bears land potentially one of the best prospects, in recent memory, and with what that team has cooking, this could be a really potent offense right out of the gate. Now with Washington here at number 2, we all know it's going to be a quarterback. The only question is which one. I've been saying it for a while. I believe since our first mock draft prior to free agency, Jaden Daniels is the highest upside guy after Caleb Williams. And the odds in Vegas reflect that too. So I'm not going to get too crazy here. I will maintain the Jaden Daniels pick. Now here at number 3, though, I think this is where we could see a trade. And I've got the New England Patriots swapping picks with none other than the New York Giants. What's that going to take? It's going to obviously take a swap of first-round picks, a third-round pick this year, and I think maybe if a pick like, a third rounder next year is added, then that could make it work. So something along those lines, and the New York Giants move up. But I think here it's not for what some people might expect. I think if you see this type of trade, some might say it's for a quarterback for the New York Giants. And look, I'm not ruling that out. That's a possibility. This type of trade allows that. I think Drake May would be very tempting. I think J.J. McCarthy would be tempting. But if I had to guess right now, I think the Giants are going to go wide receiver. And there's a possibility that they want to leapfrog somebody like the Arizona Cardinals for the top wide receiver in this draft class. That is Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think this would be a no-brainer. As a result, they have to give up some draft capital, but they still get a difference maker in Marvin Harrison Jr., where as opposed to that, they might have had to look at Malik Neighbors, or maybe even Roma Dunze. Who knows? Now here at the 104, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. They get sniped, but I think they still get a decent consolation in Malik Neighbors. So it could be a lot worse. I do believe that their first pick, unless they trade out of the 104, is going to be a wide receiver, but I just don't see that happening. So we go with Malik Neighbors here. And then here, another trade in the top 5, the LA Chargers. Look, they need a lot of help right now, you could argue, with the way they approached free agency, with some of the guys they had to move away from. So a popular team that's been out there has been the Minnesota Vikings. You don't make the type of move that they did in terms of acquiring more first-round picks unless you're in the market for a quarterback. And I think that's what we're kind of looking at here. So 2 first-round picks, the 111, the 123. I wouldn't be shocked if it takes a little bit more, but it'll be something in this neighborhood. So we'll push this trade through, and the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. And here they're going to go quarterback. If they trade up into the top 5, or you could argue, top 7, something like that, it's going to be for a quarterback. In this case, I think it's going to be Drake May. I have him ranked higher than J.J. McCarthy, even though people are falling over themselves about J.J. McCarthy. I think that was more of a, kind of circumstance of the situation there with that defense, with the coach. So I'm going Drake May here. Now, let's move on here to the New England Patriots being back on the clock. And they're in a situation here where they moved back a little bit. They got some good compensation, and they can still go with a quarterback that they probably would have been considering with the third overall pick. They could go wide receiver as well, but I think it's going to be a quarterback in this situation. I'm going to go with J.J. McCarthy, another Michigan guy, similar to a Tom Brady going to New England and, hopefully being the quarterback of the future that they've needed since Tom Brady left. Now we go to the Tennessee Titans, and here I think this is a little bit boring, but this has been the case for a while. The Tennessee Titans need an offensive lineman. I think Joe Alt from Notre Dame is the top guy without question. So we're not going to get too crazy. Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. Then the Atlanta Falcons, after their acquisition of Kirk Cousins, I've had Dallas Turner, the top edge rusher, slotted to them for a while, and I think that'll continue to be the case here. Somebody like Rome Odunze could be tempting, maybe trading back. I'm not ruling any of those things out, but I think they need help defensively. Offensively, they're pretty solid, so Dallas Turner here. And then the Chicago Bears. Look, they started out with Caleb Williams, which is an A-plus pick to begin with, and now the rich get richer. Rome Odunze falls to them. This is a great value pick. The Keenan Allen trade was great, but that's short term. Long term, I wouldn't be shocked if he's not in Chicago for more than a year or two max, something like that. We'll see. Either way, they need a guy after that, and I think Rome Odunze would be great. I think he could, make this trio of wide receivers one of the best in the NFL. Now we move on here to the number 10 pick overall, the New York Jets. And the New York Jets, again, another team that I can go in a lot of different directions. I actually see a potential for a trade here. So I've got the New York Jets trading with the Indianapolis Colts, who are a team that has been linked to several different players, and this is only, trading back 5 slots, so nothing too crazy. I think probably trading the fourth rounder that they have, and then if you go down, a little bit more, maybe like a 6th rounder, and that could get it done, or a 3rd rounder instead of the 4th rounder. But either way, we make this trade happen, and the Indianapolis Colts here. I think Brock Bowers is somebody that makes a lot of sense. I've had him going to the Indianapolis Colts for a while now, but I think, I'm kind of the mindset that somebody is going to take a shot at him just because of how great he is. And the Colts might not be as lucky to land him if they stay put at number 15. So here we are going with Brock Bowers to the Indianapolis Colts. Then the LA Chargers are back on the clock here. After trading down, they need an offensive lineman. They need a wide receiver. And with the type of, pedigree that they have there at the head coaching position in Harbaugh, he's preached the offensive line. I think you go with somebody like Fuaga from Oregon State. Pair him with Slater. It's a really good situation. I think Fashanu's a little bit more raw, so we go with Fuaga here, who I think could be a solid pick for them. Now here, the Denver Broncos, a popular pick for them has been quarterback, and I'm still looking at that, but I think here they're in a situation where now that we allow trades, they move back just a little bit with the team that their head coach knows well, the New Orleans Saints, and, maybe you do something for add a 5th round pick, something like that, and this gets done. I don't think it'll have to be a lot. The New Orleans Saints move up so that they can add an offensive lineman because, this could be right around the range where some offensive linemen are starting to go because there's good value at the position. Fashanu still there as well. I think here they go from, Olu Fashanu from Penn State, either him or Troy from Washington. But the New Orleans Saints need some offensive line help. Now the Raiders are on the clock, and similar situation for them here with the Denver Broncos. Could be looking for a quarterback, but could also look to trade down and, potentially select a quarterback at a little bit of a better value in terms of later on in the 1st round. So I've got the Raiders trading down here with the Cincinnati Bengals, who are picking at 18th overall. You send something like a third rounder, and I think this could potentially get done. Maybe you add a sixth rounder as well. And the Bengals are on the clock. So here, the Bengals, I said it before, offensive line run could very well happen, and they need some offensive line help. Fatanu here makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to go with it. You need to protect Joe Burrow. Those injuries have been concerning. He's obviously an elite talent, but you need to protect him from more possible injuries. Now, the Denver Broncos are back on the clock here, and they could go a number of different ways. They could go cornerback, which I think is very popular, but I could also see quarterback. And look, even though I don't agree with it, there is going to be another one of these guys, whether it's Bo Nix or Penix or both, that is also drafted in the first round. And here, if I've read the tea leaves correctly, I think the Broncos prefer Bo Nix. Do I think this is a reach? Yes. Do teams do reaches when they're desperate for a quarterback? Hell yes. So I wouldn't be shocked if something like this goes down. Now the New York Jets are back on the clock. They traded out of their initial pick. Now here at 15, I think that this is a win-win for them. Sure, they pass on Brock Bowers, but they can land somebody like a Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver here. I really like that situation for them. I think they're in a win now type of deal. Look, they added some aging, talented offensive linemen. So yes, they could add offensive line depth, but the window with Aaron Rodgers is a short one. You've added Mike Williams in free agency, sure, but he's coming off a major injury. You need more long-term security at that position. So Brian Thomas, a wide receiver that I really, really like, where I don't think the separation between him and maybe Dunze or Neighbors is all that much here. I love this pick for the New York Jets. Now the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock, and Seattle, a team that I think can go offensive line when you look at some of the losses they had in free agency, but also defense. I've been saying it, defense there, whether it's edge or maybe linebacker. Linebacker probably a little bit too early here. So to me, I'm looking at Latu. I'm looking at Verse from Florida State. I think Verse has the higher upside. So I'm going with Verse here for the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. I think edge, cornerback are popular picks. Probably on the defensive side of things, I'm going the top overall cornerback, either Arnold or Quinion Mitchell. I think Mitchell has kind of gained a little bit of edge, but I do think it's very close, neck and neck type of deal. I'm going to give the edge to Mitchell here. Now the Raiders back on the clock. I said it before, trading back a little bit, getting some draft capital, and then adding your quarterback to me is a situation that I like a little bit more so. So here, I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr., and hopefully they get their quarterback of the future. Next up with the Rams. Look, after losing Aaron Donald, I think trying to replace him with another big defensive lineman makes a lot of sense. They could go cornerback as well, edge, all those things would make sense. But I think replacing Aaron Donald, you start there. Byron Murphy from Texas, I really would like that pick for them. Now the Steelers are up next, and with the Steelers, to me, getting an interior offensive lineman, potential center, Jackson Powers Johnson, would be a good fit there. Again, you could argue wide receiver with some of the losses they've had, just it being George Pickens, not all that great with whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, but that can be addressed in the second round and afterwards as well. So Jackson Powers Johnson is the pick for me there. And here, Miami Dolphins, similar type of situation, losing some offensive lineman talent in free agency. Get a Swiss Army knife in Graham Barton from Duke. I really like him on the interior of that offensive line. I think is going to go a long way in restoring that O-line and setting up Tua for more success. So we go with Graham Barton. Now the Eagles back on the clock for the first time, I should say. And with the Eagles, I'm going cornerback. I've been looking at that cornerback position for a while, and I think it just makes sense. To me, the main thing that's changed is which cornerback is it going to be, and the way the board is shaping up right now, I've got Terrion Arnold. I think it's a good value pick, so I like that for them here. Now the Chargers on the clock again. And look, they went offensive lineman with that first pick. Now wide receiver to potentially replace the Mike Williams, the Keenan Allen situation. I'm looking at the wide receivers. I think Adonai Mitchell is kind of the next best guy available. Honestly, either one of these guys out of Texas, I like both of them. Worthy, Mitchell as well. There's some really talented wide receivers, even in the next rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if they go wide receiver in the second or third round as well. So here we go with Mitchell, though. Dallas Cowboys up next. I think you need to improve that offensive line. I'm going with J.C. Latham. They've had some departures. That's been a strength of theirs for a while. I think you want that to be a strength again and let Dak Prescott continue to try and get better. Now, the Green Bay Packers up next. Defense makes a lot of sense. Trying to replace some losses on the offensive line as well, potentially. So I think this is either offensive line or potentially secondary. I think somebody like a Cooper DeJean would be a good fit. Could be slotted in a lot of different places for the Green Bay Packers. So I've got him going to the Green Bay Packers as of right now. Next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to edge rusher here. Offensive line would also make sense, but I think Latu at this point in time is a really, really good value. So Latu to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Arizona Cardinals with their second selection in the first round after going Malik Neighbors. Now I think the focus should be improving the defense, whether that's a cornerback, whether that's defensive line help. You can't go wrong with either. So I think somebody like a Wiggins, somebody like a Newton, everyone here makes sense. Chop Robinson, but I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins. I think he's somebody that could be the first overall cornerback selected. So again, just really matters how these teams value the cornerback position in those players. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills. And boy, oh boy, the big news with the Bills is them trading away Stephon Diggs. So now who's your top wide receiver? I don't really even know. You need to get a top guy. And I'm looking at the wide receivers available. I think Ladd McConkey is kind of that next guy. Could be Xavier Worthy, but just kind of depends what type of wide receiver they're looking for in particular. In this scenario, I'm going to go with Ladd McConkey from Georgia. Now we go to the Detroit Lions, and I think this is going to be, honestly, a pick on the defensive side of things. Just the offensive is stacked. It really, really is. So whether it's defensive line, secondary, I'm going to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. From Alabama, the cornerback. Again, another pick that I think is very good value at this point in time. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, I think you need to improve the offensive line. Continue to restock the offensive line, make things easier for your running attack, make things easier for Lamar Jackson. So here, I'm going the next top available offensive lineman in Amarius Mims. Now, the San Francisco 49ers on the clock. Defense would make sense. So would offensive line. I think probably offensive line gets a little bit of an edge just with the type of system you have at quarterback there. So offensive line. And now finally, the Kansas City Chiefs. So with the issues that Rashid Rice facing, potential, charges, things like that, I think getting a wide receiver now makes a little bit more sense than some other positions. So Xavier Worthy, high upside guy. You pair him with Patrick Mahomes. Could potentially be the best fit for any wide receiver. So to me, that is the final selection in this thing. And that's how we conclude this first round 2024 NFL mock draft. Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. Again, let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think of these picks? Who do you think your team will select and why? But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.